What if I told you that one story, one lesson, one simple shift in the way you see the world could change everything? Would you believe it, or would you brush it off as another piece of motivational fluff? Most people live their lives trapped in the same routines, the same fears, the same doubts. They wake up, go to work, scroll through their phones, eat, sleep, and repeat. Days blur into weeks, weeks into years, and before they realize it, decades are gone. Then one day they look back and wonder, when did I stop dreaming? When did I stop living? This story is about a man who asked himself the same question, and the answer he found transformed not only his life, but the lives of many others. His name was Daniel. On the surface, he had an ordinary life. He wasn't struggling, but he wasn't thriving either. He had a steady job, a modest apartment, and the kind of existence society calls safe. But inside, Daniel felt restless. He wasn't unhappy, yet something inside him kept whispering that life was meant to be more than just going through the motions. He ignored it for years, burying that voice under responsibility and routine, until one evening, sitting by a river with the golden light of sunset reflecting on the water, he could no longer hold it in. He muttered quietly to himself that maybe this was it. Maybe life really was nothing more than working, paying bills, and waiting for time to run out. An older man sitting a few feet away overheard him. His face was weathered but peaceful, and with a gentle laugh, he told Daniel that he sounded like someone who had been carrying a glass of water for too long. Daniel was confused at first, but the man explained. "A glass of water," he said, "weighs almost nothing if you hold it for a minute. But hold it for an hour, and your arm begins to ache. Hold it for an entire day, and your arm goes numb. Yet the weight of the water never changes. The only thing that changes is how long you try to carry it. Life's worries," he continued, "are like that glass. Carry them for a little while and they are manageable. But keep holding on to fear, regret, and doubt, and eventually, they paralyze you." The solution is simple, yet so many forget it. You must learn to put the glass down. Those words struck Daniel like a revelation. That night, he lay awake, thinking of how much time he had wasted worrying about what others thought, how many dreams he had abandoned because of fear, and how often he told himself, "someday," instead of "today." The glass of water had become a symbol of his life, and he realized he had been carrying far too much for far too long. He promised himself that starting from that day, he would begin to live instead of simply exist. But deciding is one thing, acting is another. Daniel's long-buried dream was to open a bakery. Since childhood, he had loved baking, a passion inherited from his grandmother, who taught him to knead dough with patience and wait for bread to rise with faith. Yet Daniel had dismissed this dream as unrealistic. That morning by the river, however, gave him the courage to try. Fear still whispered in his ear, but he chose not to listen. Instead, he took his first step, renting a small space with just enough room for an oven, a counter, and his dream. In the beginning, everything seemed to go wrong. Customers were few, some days none at all. Doubt returned heavier than ever, especially when friends told him he was reckless for leaving stability behind. The memory of their words gnawed at him at night, but every morning as he shaped dough with his hands, he reminded himself of the glass of water. He realized he could not carry the weight of other people's doubts. He had to put them down and keep going. Daniel remembered another lesson his grandmother once told him, about two frogs that had fallen into a bucket of milk. One grew tired, gave up, and drowned. The other kept kicking, refusing to quit, and after hours of struggle, the milk thickened into butter, giving it the push to leap out. She had told him, "Life is the same. Keep kicking, even when you feel like giving up. Miracles happen when you refuse to stop moving." Now, years later, he finally understood. He kept swimming, day after day, kneading dough even when no one came, testing recipes, handing out samples, smiling at strangers. Slowly, people began to notice. His bread was different, they said, not just in taste, but in feeling. There was something about it that carried comfort, warmth, and sincerity. They didn't just buy bread, they experienced care baked into every loaf. His tiny bakery began to grow, becoming not just a shop but a place of connection, a refuge where people felt a sense of home. Months later, Daniel was wiping down the counter one evening when the door opened and the old man from the river stepped inside. His heart leapt with recognition. He rushed to give the man his finest loaf, thanking him for the wisdom that had changed his life. The old man smiled knowingly and said he had not given Daniel courage, only reminded him of what was already inside him. The power had always been his. Daniel realized then that the greatest shift in life does not come from others giving us something new, but from remembering the strength we already carry. Years passed, and Daniel's bakery became the heart of the town. People came not only for bread, but for the reminder that life is worth living fully. On one wall hung a simple sign that read, "Don't just exist, live, put the glass down." When people asked him how he found the courage to follow his dream, he always answered the same way. What if I told you the life you dream of is already waiting for you? What if I told you that all you need is to stop carrying other people's fears, stop carrying your doubts, and finally take that first step? What if I told you it's never too late to live instead of merely survive? This story isn't just about Daniel. It's about you, me, and every single person who has ever felt stuck. We all hold glasses of water, regrets, worries, failures. We all fall into buckets of milk where it feels easier to stop fighting. We all postpone our dreams waiting for the perfect time, not realizing that the perfect time never comes. It must be created. So let me ask you again. What if I told you that the life you dream of is already within reach? What if I told you that failure isn't the end but only a stepping stone? What if I told you that the happiness you've been searching for is not somewhere out there in the future, but in the small daily choices you make today? Would you still wait, or would you finally live? Because one day, you will look back. And the only question that will matter is not how much money you made, not how many hours you worked, not how safe you played. The only question that will matter is, did you really live, or did you just exist?